you. Welcome everybody, and thank you for attending this virtual meeting of My Education and Skills Decision Day. This meeting is being webcast on YouTube via the County Council website. We have no deputations today, and that leaves me into the first item on the agenda, which is additional sports facilities at Deer Park School, Hedge End. And I believe Steve Clow is going to introduce this item.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I have nothing to add since your briefing. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I think everyone would agree we went through this in great depth at the briefing, so I have no further questions to add to this. I don't know if anyone else has any further questions or comments they wish to add.
No, thank you.
No. Okay, so if I take everyone to the recommendations on page 3, which is that the Executive Member of Education and Skills grants the spend approval to the project proposal for the additional sports facilities at Deer Park School at the cost of £2,448,000. I'm happy to approve that recommendation.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Steve. And I believe the next item is also you, Steve, which is Icknield School, Andover.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Chair. Nothing to add since your briefing.
Okay, thank you. And again, we went over this in great depth in the briefing and asked many questions. I don't know if anyone else has anything they wish to add or comment on in regards to Icknield. I know it has great support from the local member. And has anyone got anything they wish to add to that one? No. Okay, so I will take everyone to the recommendations on page 19, which is that the Executive Member for Education and Skills grants the spend approval to the project proposals for Icknield School at the maximum total cost of £2.5 million. I'm happy to approve that recommendation.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So that brings us on to item 3 of my agenda, which is Stanmore Primary School, Winchester. And again, Steve, I believe this is you.
It is, yes. Thank you, Councillor Chair. Yeah, nothing to add since your briefing.
Again, as I've said in previous, we went over this in great depth in the briefing. I have nothing more to add to this one. I don't know if anyone else wishes to comment on this one at all. No. So I will take you to the recommendations, which are on page 33, which is that the Executive Member of Education and Skills grants the spend approval to the project proposal for Stanmore Primary School at the total cost of £500,000. I'm happy to approve that recommendation. And then finally, agenda item 4, which is South Farnborough Junior School. And again, this is you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Chad. Nothing to add since your briefing. Thank you.
Again, we went over this in great depth in the briefing, and I know this will be very welcomed by the school and the rest of the community in this area. Has anyone else got anything they wish to add to this one at all?
No, thank you.
No. Minutes. If I take everyone to the recommendations on this one, which are on page 47, which is that the Executive Member for Education and Skills grants the spend approval to the project proposal for South Farnborough Junior School at the total cost of £290,000. I'm happy to approve that recommendation. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Steve, and thank you, everyone, for attending the decision day today. And I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Councillor Patricia Stallard, Executive Member for Children's Services and Young People. Thank you.
You're on mute.
Patricia.
Right. Thank you to Councillor Chad, and also thank you to everyone who are attending this meeting this virtual meeting this afternoon for my Children's Services and Young People's Decision Day. And as you are all aware, this meeting is being webcast on YouTube via the County Council website. There are no deputations, and there is one item on my agenda today for discussion, and that's the Children's Services Capital Programme update. You'll find that starting on page 3 of the pack that you have in front of you. And I believe, Peter Colnott, you're going to be introducing this paper.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the report sets out the updated capital programme for 2020-21 and provides an update on projects for 2021-22, and it gives a revised cash limit, Chair, as set out in Table 1 to a value of 67.8 million. There's no further major changes since your briefing, and we've just been through a number of the project appraisals actually that relate to this report from Steve Clow. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I feel that this is quite an important paper for a number of reasons, because there are some very, very exciting new build schools coming along that will be opening in September. And there are also some new and much needed proposals here for extensions to existing properties, existing schools. And we have to take on board those things when we're planning, not only for today, but for the future. As Councillor Chad said, officers have already gone through her documents with her very thoroughly, and likewise you and Steve Clow have gone through this particular paper with me. I'd like first of all to, on page 5, Little Dears Day Nursery in Burley, the New Forest. Just for anyone who might be watching in this afternoon, can you very, very briefly just say, Peter, explain why the relocation is necessary, just very briefly?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the Little Dears Day Nursery, it's part of the County Council's responsibility to fulfil its childcare sufficiency duty. And without this development, there is a concern about the longer term future of provision for early years education within the Burley area serving Branstor and the Burley ward. And it's felt that that provision could be at risk if we were not to undertake this scheme.
And I can assume also that there might be an opportunity for them to take on additional numbers at the same time, which will be very, very good for the community. Yeah.
Thank you.
The other one I'd like just to note, because I think it's really important, is the under paragraph 19, the special educational needs provision, that we are providing more modular accommodation because we are expanding that, and we're talking about Riverside Community Special School at Havant and the St Francis Special School at Fareham, plus internal alterations at the Holy Water School at Borden. I think it's really important, as you pointed out in paragraph 20 of your report, that it's absolutely advisable wherever possible to place a child that's in a location which is nearer to its home than its parents, rather than sending a child to an independent non-maintained special school. I think it's better so we can get the child. So that's a really important point, I think. Thank you very much, Stephen Clow, for the paper that you sent me the other day. I was very pleased to note that the whole increase is 35%. That's a significant increase for the South Farnborough Junior School, and I'm sure that they will be delighted with that.
Thank you, Chairman.
Page 12, sorry, paragraph 25, appendix 2. I'm not quite sure who to ask. It's a question on appendix 2. It's probably you, Peter. I notice on appendix 2 that 3, 4, 5 of the properties there are County Council owned, but 2 of them, Forest Park Totton and Riverside Community Special School, you don't make that comment against.
Thank you, Chairman. This is about, in actual fact, it's about where we have to now identify where we're removing buildings and where we're locating them. So Forest Park actually is a County Council owned site. Right. It's just that we're talking about, if you look in the first 2 on there, they're installation of a double unit, and then there's the removal of a unit. So we can update that for future reference. So apologies for that. If that.
Well, it's not a criticism at all. It's just a query that I raised. I thought, well, if all the others are County Council owned,
yes,
are these not?
No, they absolutely are. So I'm not entirely sure why we didn't write that. I'll make sure we're consistent for the future. Sorry.
Well, it's by no means a criticism. Okay, is there anybody who would like to add further comment on this document or has a question to raise with anyone? No? In that case, I'll look at the recommendations which are set out on pages 3 and 4. The recommendations, 1, which is the approve the revised capital programme. Yes, I agree. The revised capital programme is set out in Appendix 1 to be approved along with the amendments to the 2021 capital programme. Agreed. And then the approval number 3, the recommendation number 3, has several bullet points to it. I'm not going to read them all through now, but they do cover additional resources for Deer Park School, the public consultation to be undertaken in relation to the expansion of Riverside Community Special School, St Francis Special School and Holywater School. Also the allocation of additional resources of up to £500,000 from the capital programme for the relocation of Little Deer's Day Nursery School, and also 0.290 million are approved from the capital programme for the extension of the South Barnborough Junior School, and I'm sure they'll all be delighted with that information, with that news. The other recommendation 4, is that I give approval to the Director of Children's Services to determine those sites that require modular buildings in the next academic year, and of course I do. And item number 5, that I give approval be given to the Director of Children's Services to allocate £1.2 million of revenue funding to support the relocation of existing modular buildings. I'm now turning over the page onto the other side. Item recommendation 6 is that I approve those projects listed in Appendix 3, and recommendation number 7 is that I approve the projects which have already been delegated under delegated powers by the Director of Children's Services, and of course I have looked at them and I do approve them. And finally, recommendation number 8, that we undertake the necessary consultations with the Director of Culture, Communities and Business Services and undertake costed feasibility studies for each of the projects listed in Appendix 5. I'm very, very happy to agree all those recommendations here this afternoon. And I'd like to thank you all for your thorough briefing and your very detailed papers which you've brought to the table this afternoon. Thank you. Are there any further items that any comments that anyone wishes to make? No? Right, well, finally, I'd like to give my sincere thanks to all of you for attending this decision day, and I'd like to ask now that the webcam please be stopped.